Stop starting your car this way. I mean it. This single mistake is destroying your car from the inside out. Most drivers have no idea that the way they start their engine every morning is shaving years off its life. I've seen starters burn out before 20,000 miles, batteries die in half their expected time, and engines that should have lasted 200,000 completely ruined before 80,000, all because of bad starting habits. And the worst part? These mistakes are so simple. You'll kick yourself once you realize how easy they are to avoid. Today, I'll walk you through the 10 worst starting habits that are quietly killing your car, one by one. And trust me, some of them will surprise you. Stick with me until the end, because the last mistake is one that almost everyone makes, and it can cost you thousands if you don't fix it. Let's start with one of the easiest to prevent: starting your car with the electronics on. When you leave your headlights, AC, heated seats, or defroster running before you shut off the car, guess what happens the next morning? Your battery is forced to power all those systems at the same time it's trying to spin your starter. At that moment, your battery should be doing one job, cranking your engine. But instead, the power gets divided. That means your starter spins slower, your engine cranks longer, and your alternator has to work double time once the car finally starts. Over weeks and months, that stress kills all three: the battery, the starter, and the alternator. I had a customer who swore his alternator was bad. It wasn't. He just left his heated seats and rear defroster on every night. The alternator had been working overtime for months. The fix couldn't be easier. Before shutting off your car, turn off your electronics. That way, in the morning, the battery puts every ounce of power into the engine. Once it's running, flip your switches back on. This one habit alone can save you hundreds, if not thousands, over the life of your car. Now let's talk to my diesel drivers. If you're skipping the glow plug light, you're burning money and killing your engine. Here's the truth: diesel engines don't use spark plugs. They ignite fuel using compression heat. But in cold weather, that heat just isn't enough. That's why glow plugs exist, to preheat the chamber and make sure the fuel ignites cleanly. Every modern diesel has a glow plug light. You turn the key to on, the light comes on while the plugs heat, and when it goes out, you're good to go. But if you skip the wait and crank immediately, cold fuel goes into a cold chamber. That stresses the starter, drains the battery, dumps unburned fuel into your exhaust, and wrecks your glow plugs. I had a fleet of work trucks once, and one driver never waited for the glow plug light. He went through glow plugs twice as often as everyone else. When I showed him the repair bill, he changed his ways fast. So here's the rule: patience. Wait those few seconds. Your engine will start smoother, cleaner, and last longer. Now here's one that makes me grind my teeth every single morning: revving the engine right after startup. I know it's tempting, especially in the cold, to clear it out with a quick blip of the throttle. But here's the reality: when you first start your engine, all the oil is sitting in the oil pan. None of it has reached the crankshaft, the bearings, the pistons, or the camshafts yet. The pump needs a few seconds to build pressure and circulate oil to every moving part. If you rev right away, you're forcing dry metal against dry metal at high speed. That's when you see bearing wear, piston scoring, and valve train damage. I once rebuilt a V8 with only 70,000 miles on it, and the crank bearings looked like they'd done 200,000, all because the owner loved to rev it every morning. The fix is simple: start the car, let it idle for about 30 seconds, and in freezing weather, give it even longer. Then drive gently until it warms up. It costs you nothing, but it can add years of life to your engine. Manual drivers, you're next. Starting without pressing the clutch is one of the fastest ways to wear out your starter. Here's why. Without the clutch in, the starter has to spin not only the engine, but also all the heavy transmission internals. That's a massive load, especially on cold mornings when gearbox oil is thick like molasses. But when you press the clutch, you disconnect the gearbox, and suddenly the starter only has to spin the engine. Easier start, Less stress, longer life for both the starter and the battery. And here's another reason to do it: safety. I've seen cars lurch forward the instant the key turned because the driver forgot the car was left in gear. One guy with a '72 Datsun burned through 2 starters in one winter because he never pressed the clutch, and he nearly rammed his own garage door because the car jumped forward on startup. So remember, foot on the clutch, key to start, foot off once the engine is running. Here's a mistake that seems tiny, but adds up fast: starting without letting the fuel pump prime. Every modern fuel-injected car relies on an electric pump to pressurize the fuel system before ignition. When you turn the key to on, that faint hum you hear is the pump building pressure. If you crank immediately, the injectors aren't ready, the engine struggles, and your starter and battery take unnecessary punishment. The longer the car sits, the worse this gets, because fuel pressure drops over time. In freezing weather, it's even worse. I had a Silverado in my shop where the owner swore it was getting harder to start. Nothing was mechanically wrong, he just never let the pump prime. Once I showed him how to pause for 2 seconds, it fired instantly every time. The rule is simple: key on, quick pause, then start. It's free, easy, and it saves wear on your whole system. Now let's talk about a mistake left over from the carburetor days: holding the key in start too long. Traditional ignitions have 2 positions: start to fire the engine and run to keep it going. The second the engine catches, you're supposed to let go. But hold it too long, and you're grinding the starter gear against the spinning flywheel. That destroys teeth, overheats the solenoid, and even melts the ignition switch. I've opened up starters that looked like they went through a meat grinder, all from people holding the key an extra second or two. On the flip side, some folks don't hold the key long enough, especially on cold mornings, which leads to repeated half starts that punish the starter. The solution? Learn the sound of your engine. The moment it fires, release the key. Not too early, not too late. Here's a quiet killer, starting with a weak battery. Most people think the only problem is a lazy crank. Wrong. When a weak battery struggles, the starter pulls extra current, overheating windings, frying solenoids, and stressing cables. But that's not all. Modern cars are packed with sensitive electronics. If the voltage drops too low during cranking, sensors misread ECUS glitch, and expensive modules can get damaged. Cold weather makes this even worse. A battery loses up to 50% of its cranking power in freezing temperatures. I had a Subaru come in last winter with the dash lit up like a Christmas tree. The owner swore the alternator was failing. Nope, the battery was dipping under 9 volts during startup, confusing the entire electrical system. The fix? Check your battery twice a year. If it's older than 5 years, replace it before it leaves you stranded. Don't wait for a dead morning to learn this the hard way. Now here's a habit that should have died decades ago: pumping the gas pedal on fuel-injected cars. Back in the carburetor era, pumping the pedal squirted extra fuel into the intake to help with cold starts. But today's cars, they're fuel-injected. The computer already adjusts the mixture perfectly for the conditions. Pumping the pedal now does nothing but flood the engine, wash the thin oil film off your cylinder walls, and dump raw fuel into the exhaust. That means fouled plugs, ruined oxygen sensors, and even damaged catalytic converters. I had a Corolla owner swear by 2 quick pumps every morning. Within 2 years, his plugs were coated in soot, his O2 sensors failed, and his repair bill was through the roof. The right way: keep your foot off the gas completely. Just turn the key or press the button. The computer will handle the rest. Now let's talk about one that can turn dangerous fast: jump-starting the wrong way. Too many people think it's foolproof. But I've seen cars fried, modules destroyed, and batteries explode from doing it wrong. The most common mistake? Hooking up the cables in the wrong order. That can send a voltage surge straight through your car's delicate electronics. Another? Letting the clamps touch while they're live? You've basically created a welding torch. Cheap cables are just as bad. They overheat, melt, and fail under the load. And here's the worst one: jumping a frozen or leaking battery. That can cause it to crack or explode, spraying acid everywhere. I had to replace an entire wiring harness on a Jeep after a botched jump, and the bill was over $2,500. The safe way is simple: cars close but not touching, both off, red to dead positive, red to donor positive, black to donor negative, then black to a clean metal surface on the dead car away from the battery. Start the donor, wait 2 to 5 minutes, then try the dead car. Remove cables in reverse order, and let the revived car run for 15 to 30 minutes to recharge. Do it right and you're back on the road. Do it wrong and you could be shopping for a new ECU. And finally, the habit that quietly eats away at your engine every day: failing to idle before driving and restarting too soon. When you shut the engine off, oil pressure drops to 0. On restart, nothing is lubricated until the pump builds pressure. If you drop it in gear right away, metal parts grind together dry. In winter, when oil is thick, it takes even longer to circulate. The fix is simple: start the engine, let it idle for at least 30 seconds, and watch for the oil light to go out. In freezing weather, idle closer to a minute. Then, drive gently until the car warms up. And here's the second part: never restart immediately after shutting off. Your starter and battery are still recovering, and heat soak in hot weather can vaporize fuel, causing vapor lock and rough cranking. Mechanics recommend waiting at least 30 seconds before restarting, and longer after highway driving. If you absolutely must restart instantly in an emergency, expect it to crank rough, and never rev right away. These 10 mistakes are more common than you think. Most drivers do at least one of them every single day without realizing the damage it's causing. But the fixes? They're free. They cost you nothing but a few seconds of patience. And in return, they can save you thousands in repairs and add years to your car's life. Break these habits now, and your engine, your wallet, and your future self will thank you.